Imagine waking up to find your livelihood literally going hog wild. Across America, farmers are facing an enemy that's smart, hungry, and multiplying faster than rabbits on caffeine. We're talking about wild boars, nature's own four-legged bulldozers. These 200-pound wrecking balls are costing U.S. farmers a jaw-dropping $2.5 billion every single year. So how are farmers fighting back against this bacon-flavored invasion? Stick around, because the solutions are as wild as the boars themselves. Wild boars, also known as feral hogs, are not native to North America. They're an invasive species introduced by European settlers centuries ago. Fast forward to today, and their population has exploded to an estimated 6 million across at least 35 states. These aren't your typical farm pests. We're talking about highly intelligent animals that can reach up to 400 pounds. They breed like rabbits with a single cell capable of producing up to 12 piglets twice a year. Do the math, and you'll see why farmers are up against a porcine plague of biblical proportions. But it's not just about numbers. Wild boars are walking disasters for crops. They don't just eat, they destroy. Their powerful snouts can plow through a field faster than a tractor, uprooting plants and devastating harvests. And they're not picky eaters. From corn and wheat to vineyards and orchards, nothing is safe from their voracious appetite. The damage goes beyond crops. These animals are known to spread diseases that can affect livestock, contaminate water sources, and even pose a threat to human health. They've been linked to outbreaks of swine brucellosis and pseudo-rabies, causing significant concerns for the pork industry. Moreover, wild boars are environmental wrecking balls. They contribute to soil erosion, disrupt native ecosystems, and compete with native wildlife for resources. In some areas, they've been known to prey on ground-nesting birds and small mammals, further upsetting the ecological balance. So, how are farmers fighting back? Let's start with the basics. Fencing is often the first line of defense, but we're not talking about your grandpa's picket fence. To keep out wild boars, you need heavy-duty stuff. We're talking about reinforced steel fences, often electrified, that can cost up to $30,000 per mile. It's a hefty investment, but for many farmers, it's the price of survival. These fences need to be at least 3 feet high and buried at least 1 to 2 feet deep to prevent the boars from rooting under them. Some farmers even add outriggers, angled extensions at the top of the fence to prevent climbing. It's like turning your farm into a fortress. Trapping is another common method. Large cage traps baited with corn or other foods can capture entire sounders. That's what you call a group of wild boars. But here's the catch. These animals are smart, really smart. They learn quickly and can become trap shy, making this method less effective over time. Successful trapping requires a deep understanding of wild boar behavior. Farmers need to pre-bait the traps for days or even weeks, allowing the boars to become comfortable with the structure before activating it. It's a game of patience and strategy, with farmers often using game cameras to monitor trap sites and determine the best time to set them. Hunting has long been a go-to solution. Many states have loose regulations on wild boar hunting, allowing year-round pursuit with no bag limits. Some farmers even host hunting tours, turning the problem into a source of additional income. But here's the kicker. Experts estimate that 70% of a wild boar population needs to be culled each year just to keep the numbers stable. With current methods, we're nowhere near that target. The challenge with hunting is that it can actually make the problem worse if not done correctly. Hunting pressure can cause sounders to split up and spread to new areas, potentially expanding their range. It can also make the animals more nocturnal and wary, making future control efforts even more difficult. This is where things get interesting. Farmers are increasingly turning to technology in their battle against the boars. Thermal imaging scopes have become a game changer for nighttime hunting. Wild boars are primarily nocturnal, and these scopes allow hunters to spot them in complete darkness. Some farmers are even using drones equipped with thermal cameras to scout large areas quickly and efficiently. These high-tech tools don't just make hunting more effective, they also make it safer. Wild boars can be dangerous, especially when cornered, and being able to spot them from a distance reduces the risk for hunters. Then there's the rise of smart traps. These high-tech cages use cameras and sensors to detect when wild boars enter. Instead of tripping a physical trigger, they send a signal to the farmer's smartphone. The farmer can then remotely close the trap, ensuring they catch the entire sounder instead of just a few individuals. Some of these smart traps are solar-powered and can operate autonomously for weeks in remote areas. They can distinguish between wild boars and other animals, reducing the chance of catching non-target species. Some even use artificial intelligence to learn and adapt to boar behavior over time. But perhaps the most controversial high-tech solution is the use of poison baits. The EPA has approved the use of sodium nitrite baits in some states. These baits are designed to be lethal to wild boars, but less harmful to other wildlife. They're distributed in special feeders that can only be accessed by animals of a certain size and strength, namely wild boars. The sodium nitrite works by reducing the blood's ability to carry oxygen, causing the animals to become unconscious and die quickly. While effective, this method is highly regulated due to concerns about impacts on non-target species and potential environmental effects. Now let's dive into the realm of biological control. Some researchers are exploring the use of contraceptives to curb wild boar populations. The idea is to develop a bait that could sterilize boars or reduce their fertility. It's a long-term strategy that could potentially be more humane and cost-effective than current methods. One approach being studied is the use of immunocontraception. This involves developing a vaccine that would trigger the boar's immune system to attack its own reproductive cells. The challenge is developing a delivery system that can effectively reach a large portion of the wild boar population. Another biological approach involves leveraging the boar's own biology against them. Scientists are studying the pheromones that wild boars use to communicate. The goal is to develop synthetic pheromones that could be used to manipulate boar behavior, perhaps luring them into traps or steering them away from crops. Researchers are also looking into genetic approaches. One idea is to release genetically modified boars that would produce only male offspring, gradually reducing the population over time. While still in the theoretical stage, such approaches highlight the innovative thinking being applied to this problem. At the end of the day, one of the most effective strategies isn't about fancy tech or clever traps. It's about people working together. Many states have implemented cooperative wild boar management programs. These initiatives bring together farmers, hunters, and wildlife officials to coordinate their efforts. By sharing information, resources, and strategies, these cooperative programs can tackle the wild boar problem on a much larger scale than individual farmers could manage alone. It's a reminder that sometimes the best solution to a complex problem is good old-fashioned teamwork. These programs often involve creating boar-free zones, where intensive control efforts are focused on completely eradicating boars from a specific area. Once cleared, constant vigilance and rapid response to any new sightings help keep these areas boar-free. Education is another crucial aspect of these programs. Many farmers are learning to think like a boar, understanding the animal's behavior, habitat preferences, and movement patterns. This knowledge allows them to predict and prevent damage more effectively. Some states are also experimenting with bounty programs offering cash rewards for each wild boar killed. While controversial, these programs can incentivize more widespread control efforts. The fight against wild boars is also driving innovation in farming practices. Some farmers are experimenting with crop rotation strategies and planting patterns designed to make their fields less attractive to boars. Others are using sacrificial crops, small plots of highly attractive foods placed to lure boars away from more valuable crops. The battle against wild boars is far from over. As we speak, farmers across America are gearing up for another night of defense against these formidable foes. But with each passing day, new strategies emerge, technologies advance, and our understanding of these animals grows. The question isn't just how to stop the wild boars, it's how to restore balance to our ecosystems and protect our food supply. As one farmer put it, we're not just fighting for our livelihood, we're fighting for the future of American agriculture.